Hi, and welcome to episode 86 of the Gridirons of Europe podcast. My name is Andre, and with me today is my co-host Antoine. What's up, man?
What's going on, guys? What's going on? How's it going?
Well, I'm still a bit sick, as I think most people can hear from my voice, but I'm doing a lot better, and I think I'll be good to go for our practices starting this week. But today is a very special episode. It is our Division 1 preview extravaganza.
Let's go. It's the episode everybody looks forward to. We definitely look forward to making it. So, yeah, man.
Yeah, it's really fun. In 2022, this was actually our most listened to episode. So let's see if there's any hype around this one, if we can get similar numbers. But so the process for today, I've reached out to all of the Division 1 head coaches, and they've answered a few of our questions. I'm not sure if we're gonna read the questions out now. No, maybe I'll do that in a bit. So they get their input on this preview, and then of course me and Antoine, we're gonna give our thoughts. And for those of you who are wondering, oh no, where is Oside? He is on vacation, and he probably won't be back until about 3 weeks from now.
Yeah, man. So, aside, if you when you listen to this episode, we hope you're enjoying your vacation. We hope you're having a good time with friends and family. And, yeah, man, we look forward to your return.
For sure. Let's get into it then. We asked 3 questions to the coaches. The first one was what the team's main goals are for the season. The second one is asking about the team's biggest strengths and weaknesses. And then the third question is a prediction one. Which teams do you believe will make the playoffs? So we get kind of the view of what the coaches think, where their main competition is at, and so on.
So let's go ahead. Do you want to start with? So the way we're gonna do the coaches' responses are. We're going to do this on our power rankings. So we'll start from the bottom of the list, and then we'll talk about our power rankings after we do coaches' responses. So go ahead and start off with Gothenburg.
Yeah, so a few weeks ago when you released the power rankings list here, we had Gothenburg at the bottom.
Yeah, man. So let's go ahead. Do you want me to read the questions and you can read the coach's answers, or?
Yeah, sure. Let's do that.
So we got. Hold on. Let's scroll back up. Question 1. What are your main goals for the season?
And for Gothenburg, that was a rather simple answer here. We got an answer from head coach Daniel Fernandez. He says, make the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much everybody's goal, either to make the playoffs, have a winning season, or to win the championship. So whenever a coach kind of gives that plain and simple response, you just know that head coach's mindset is on the right thing, on winning.
Yeah, I mean the coach wants to win, and I get that. He wants to make the playoffs, but we maybe don't quite think so, putting them at the bottom of the list.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Should we go to question 2?
What are your team's biggest strengths and weaknesses?
And from Mr. Fernandez, we get the response. We have a pretty young team. Our biggest weakness is lack of experience. But he also claims that youth is our strength. We have some senior players helping in coaching, and for playing time during the season, we expect to build a young core that can drive the Marvels for years to come. So talking a bit about youth and inexperience there.
Yeah, but then I kind of like that response because from both aspects, it's like we have a young team, so there are pros and cons to having a young team. Obviously, the pros being that you hope that those players will stay on the team and that you can build for the future. And then one of the cons is the lack of experience. So, as long as you have a good core of senior guys on there helping the younger guys and coaching them up, they could build something special. So uh, we'll see.
Yeah, I think we talked a lot about it last year with the Predators team, that we were a young team in
Yeah.
transition, and that's part of the reason why we struggled last year, I think. So it'll be interesting to see how Gothenburg can manage being in a similar
Yeah, for
situation.
sure. All right, question three. Which teams do you believe will make the final? Or no, which teams do you believe will make the playoffs? Sorry.
And Coach Fernandez says, I don't really focus much around other teams. Hopefully, we can make the playoffs, and that's where our mindset is. Well, taking it one game at a time. The competition is tough, and without Arlanda in it, I must say that AIK Griffins and Kristianstad Predators are what we expect to be the toughest matchups. But from experience, we cannot look down at the Rockets, and it might be the same for the Wolves. We will probably need a calculator to account for which teams make the playoffs in the end of the regular season.
I genuinely like that response. Like that's such a good response.
Yeah, I think that's a funny response there at the end. Oh, we're probably gonna have to use a calculator at the end because he's not wrong. I think the battle for that fourth and final playoff spot is gonna be wild.
It's gonna be interesting to watch the Division One. Like I said, with the restructuring of Division One, and you guys are kind of playing everyone. It makes the league better. It makes the league more interesting, and it makes the league more competitive. So I think it's going to be tight this year. But obviously, I think AIK is going to be the huge out favorite because they do have majority of the AI Orlando Jets players joining them. So they're making a strong team stronger. So we'll just see how they were able to mesh over the off.
And we thank Coach Fernandez for his time in answering our questions. Do you have any final thoughts on Gothenburg before we move
No,
on?
man. Just thank you to Coach Daniel. I wish you guys the best of luck throughout the season, and yeah, we look forward to watching you guys play.
So our number 5 team in the power ranking. Who's
You know who
that?
that is? That's you guys, Monster Predators.
So much disrespect putting us at
We
5.
only have what we only have the information of what we have to go off of, man. Last year, you guys struggled a little bit, so that
Yeah, we sure did.
so yeah, let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and jump into it. Your coach did a phenomenal job, giving us a 500 word answers to every question. So
He was comprehensive in his
very,
answers, Coach Mosher was.
very. All right. Question one. What are your main goals for the season?
Okay, so I'm just going to read this right off what Coach Mosher said here. My understanding of the football culture here in Kristianstad seems to be one that expects to be successful, meaning winning games and challenging for championships. Those two things are results, though, and we can't necessarily directly control the outcome of anything. Sports, when viewed through a win-loss perspective, is a zero-sum game. When two teams play each other, one team wins, one team loses. One bounce this way instead of that way, a first down not gained or allowed, could mean the difference between winning and losing. What we can control is our effort, our attention to detail, our willingness to learn, work hard, and get better each day. My main goal then is to reinforce the desire to win by continuing to build upon and enhance the processes that have already been started here. I believe winning consistently and being successful year after year is more about having the right processes than planning to win a game. If the right processes are in place, including everyone buying into those processes, then winning takes care of itself. Just ask Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots.
Very, very well thought out answer to the question. Definitely paid attention to details. Definitely didn't shy away from um, giving a thorough answer to that. I mean, he's right. I mean, on any given day, any given team can beat anybody. So it's just what your players to control, and that's their effort, their willingness to play, how hard they fight, and things of that nature. So very very detailed answer, good answer, and yeah, I don't have anything wrong with that. I mean, it's all about the process. You got to trust the process. Good answer. Good answer. Very well thought out. You got any thoughts?
No, I think I'll save my thoughts for at
Okay.
the end.
All right. Let's go ahead. Question two. Team's biggest strengths and weaknesses.
Our biggest strength looks to be the depth of the entire program here in Kristianstad. There are a lot of excellent athletes here with a lot of experience that are highly motivated to continue experiencing success throughout all the teams. This is actually a product of the processes I described earlier. There are a lot of motivated people, coaches, players, and the multitude of volunteers that have put an untold amount of energy into this program. That's a large reason why year after year there are good players moving up through the ranks of the Predators. As far as weaknesses go, to be completely truthful, it's probably the head coach. New to Sweden, can barely put together a sentence I svenska, just beginning to learn about the culture in Sweden and particularly here in Kristianstad, etc., etc. This is a huge challenge. In order to be able to motivate and unite people toward a common goal, a leader needs to understand those around him or her. Well, clearly everything is new to me here, and for a strong relationship to flourish, a key element is trust. Trust isn't earned overnight, and it certainly won't happen if I'm not open and receptive and sensitive to different ways of doing things that people and players here might have. Having worked in other football environments in Europe, having worked in other football environments where English was not the primary language has prepared me to know in advance that it would likely be different from what I might expect. Knowing that there will be differences just gives me a bit of a head start on the learning curve. I still need to be highly attuned and attentive to what people are saying, and also perhaps just as much to what they may not be saying. Thankfully, I tend to ask a ton of questions about things whenever given the chance, and even if I'm not. And so I believe by being receptive and open and willing to listen before acting puts me in the best position to overcome this weakness.
All right. Let's go ahead and just roll. We'll go ahead and roll right into question three. Which teams do you think will make the playoffs in Division
This is actually a pretty funny answer from Coach Mosher here. What a great question. I feel like this one is a giant test. Like, yeah, let's see if the newbie from Canada will stick his foot in his mouth. Sorry to disappoint, fellas. I mean, hopefully I haven't said anything too dumb yet, but I certainly can't willingly go down that dead-end road for you. Haha. Honestly, though, I barely know anything about Kristianstad yet, never mind the other football teams in our division. I've only seen a bit of film from last year on most of the teams. So really, I feel it would be tremendously disrespectful for me to suggest any team or teams are better than others at this point, and that team A or B is this or that. I would certainly like to think and hope that the Kristianstad Predators can be one of those teams, but that's about all I'm willing to say for now.
Good answer. Very, very, very politically correct answer. Didn't want to funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very
Yeah, yeah,
diplomatic
yeah.
there.
So he is you guys' new head coach. How do you think he's doing thus far? Uh,
He's a really smart guy. He brings a lot of energy to the table. He's very happy to be here, and as he says, he's willing to ask questions and learn. So it's going to be an interesting season. And Coach Mosher says he's the weakness of the team. I don't really agree with him. I think I think he's good enough.
yeah, you guys down in Cohasset, you guys love Canadian head coaches, don't you?
It's a weird one. We've had two in a row now. It's getting a bit absurd. How are we pulling people from Canada suddenly? I don't think we ever had anyone from Canada before.
But yeah, man. I mean, that's he definitely sounds like a smart guy. He definitely sounds like he does his homework. I know he said he watched a little bit of film, but just by reading his responses to the questions, I feel like he does nothing but watch film and break down film, and he has a really good game plan for you guys moving forward. So, yeah, man.
We'll see how it goes. I'm really excited about the season. I think our opener against East is going to be a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
man.
And uh, maybe it's time to spill the news. I think it's already out. We've got an import quarterback in place now.
Okay.
Finally, we've been looking to bring one in forever, and now one is finally in place. Myron Norfleet from
Hey,
Kentucky.
shout out to you, Myron Norfleet from Kentucky, man. Wish you the best of luck this year. Hope that you enjoy Sweden. Yeah, man.
And he arrived just days ago, barely in time for our scrimmage slash joint practice with the Gothenburg
Okay.
Giants last weekend.
Nice, nice. But he looks good. Looks good. Plays good.
Yeah, what I've seen so far, he looks like he knows what he's doing and he knows how to throw a football. So all positive so far.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, man. Let's go ahead and as you were reading through the answers, I felt like kind of an a hole. I was like, man, his throat is hurting, and I'm making him do all the reading. So we can go ahead and start. Like you can ask the question, and I'll go ahead and read the coach's responses.
Okay,
All right.
sure
So next
enough.
up we have Koskuga.
Yeah, Kolskuga, we ranked at number 4. Well, I didn't, but Osaida and Antoine overruled me. Okay, question 1. What are Kolskuga's main goals for the season?
Coach Tommy Axelson. He said, "My main goal this year is to build a strong group of players that we can keep building on next year, and of course to make good and hard games uh, with our team." Okay, I think he meant like to play. Yeah,
Yeah,
to
to
play
play
hard
hard.
to play hard
Yeah.
against good teams. Yeah.
Do you know Tommy at all?
Yeah, I can say this about Tommy. Tommy has been around the team. My last well for around the Koskuga for a long time. He was a player. My 2 seasons in Koskuga. He was gonna play offensive lineman. The first year he got injured. And then they kind of took him out for the year. But he's just a very good presence on the sideline. You know, he makes it to every game. He does. He's always cheering us on. His voice is the first voice that you will hear on the sideline, shouting like congratulating you or yelling at you to pick it up. But he cares about the team. He cares about the organization. So yeah, man, I think he's gonna do. I think he's gonna do a great job. I mean, he's been around the team and the players for years. So
That's awesome. It seems like you guys have, or not you guys anymore,
yeah,
but Kolskuga has the right man in place for the
yeah, for
job,
sure,
though.
for sure.
Okay, question number 2. What are Kolskuga's biggest strengths and weaknesses according to Coach
He
Axelson?
said the biggest strength is that we have the heart players. Weakness is that we lost a group of players this year. I, yeah, I can. I know how he talks, so I know what he's going to say. So the leaders on the team are some of the are going to be the key for that team. How they approach every game, uh, they speak to the players, how they motivate each other. So last year we had an issue where we would show up to games and it depended on what Pastuga team that you would get. So hopefully going into the season they can kind of leaders. Hopefully their heart is in the right place. Hopefully they're motivated, and hopefully they can get the guys around them motivated. So showing up more consistently to every game, playing every game. Like we played last year when we won games. And then the weakness, yeah, they lost a lot of players this last off season. Um, a large core of the players that left were sort of like the, a strong core of players for the team. So hopefully, with their new imports coming in, I mean, I know one of the imports, Ruben. Shout out to you, Ruben. He plays hard. He plays well. Depending on what position they have him at this year. Hopefully, he does a good job. But as far as the other imports, as long as they can come in and kind of help the team, I think they should. I think they should do all right. I mean, like I said, Kaku it's a funny place. Like we play some games last year. We played some games and it looked like, man, we're really good. And then we play other games where it's just like, man, we got a lot to work on because this isn't cutting. But yeah, hopefully, like I said, hopefully it could be a more consistent thing this year with playing good football.
Yeah, I mean, Karlskoga, it's so funny. They brought in, so they have a bunch of tight ends, and I asked Kevin, actually, who's been on the pod before. I asked him, "What the hell's going on, man? Are you guys going to be running 13 and 23 personnel out there?" And he was like, "Yeah, we got it installed."
Funny, funny.
Oh, question 3. Which teams does Tommy here believe will make the playoffs in
He said
Division 1?
Wolves, of course, and then he said AIK, Swamsta, and then Eastside.
Oh, Limham being left out in the cold.
I like his answer because he's direct with me. Whether a coach does it or not, obviously they want their team to make it into the playoffs. That's obvious, and then you kind of just the other 3 teams are uh, believe that would do well. And yeah, you got
Yeah.
interesting take. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, AIK for sure. Eastside is like for Division 1. Eastside is like very sneaky. I think they're going to be very well even keeled. I think they're not going to make too many mistakes. We don't turn the ball over too much, but I think they'll be in a lot of games, and I think they'll make a lot of games tough for teams.
Well, we'll get to Easton now.
Yeah.
Actually, what does Christian Glasnovic say that their main goals for the season
Our
are?
main goal for this year is that we want to win the Division 1. Bold, feasible, definitely. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean they were 1 point away from hosting one of the playoff games last year. But since Limham tied that final regular season game, they didn't make the playoffs at all. It was the margins were so thin last season. But yeah, I think that's where they should have their goal set. I mean, they've got a very similar team from last year, but with the added element of an import quarterback and an import skill position player. So I think they have a good chance, and if they're not setting goals like that, then sort of what's the point of bringing these guys in when they were already this close?
Exactly. So hopefully with their 2 imports, they can kind of push over that 1 point hump and make a definite playoff push, and then give somebody hell in the playoffs. Look forward to watching.
Okay, what does Coach Glasnovic say that the team's biggest strengths and weaknesses
are? Our strength is our heart and our big boy family. Weakness is that many of our roster is making the last season in the individual career. Okay, so many of the players on the team are headed into their final season playing the game, and headed into retirement afterwards.
I mean that's a bad answer, Christian. That's not a weakness.
I mean,
it's a weakness next year, not this year.
I can kind of see where his weakness might be because with teams, with players knowing that they're going to retire, it's kind of like you might get some games where their bodies are just so beat up, where it's just like, what's the point? So they might want to take it easy, or they might want to take some games off, some reps off, to kind of preserve their bodies because they know that they're going into retirement. So it's definitely it sounds like a crazy answer, but it can affect that individual player.
Yeah, I mean, of course, an aging roster is not the best. If you have a lot of 35-year-old players running around out there, then sure, it might not be the best. There's not a lot of youthful energy if that's the core of your team.
But but with teams that actually that could kind of be a strength too, because with the
Yeah,
players knowing that this is their last season, obviously they're gonna want to go out on top, so they're gonna give you that maximum effort. They're gonna be pushing harder in games and trying to make it, trying to go out with a win and win the division. So that could be a strength as well. Yeah.
for sure. Final question: which teams does Coach Glasnick believe will make the
Okay, he
playoffs?
says Eastad, of course, AIK, Limham, Predators. He's like, it would be fun with many Southern teams in the playoffs. So he's he's definitely repping the teams from down south and hoping that that majority of the teams make it from the south into the playoffs. Which, it's very possible.
I mean, not completely
Yeah,
unfeasible either. I mean, say AIK manages to sweep the league as the favorites they are and land on top, then maybe the three Skåne teams slot
yeah,
in for the three other playoff spots. It's entirely
it is.
possible.
All right, shall we move on to Limham?
Yeah, let's do it. Limham, who landed at number 2 in the power
Yeah.
rankings, uh, they might take it as an insult because they're below the team they beat in the playoffs last
Gotta
year.
yeah, we know some things. We know some things about the one.
For sure. But we talked to head coach Bjorn Massetti. First question: What is what are their main goals for the season
Yeah,
in
all
Limerick?
right. Coach Mazzetti's response was the main goal for this season for us is to continue to grow and develop as a team. We reached our goals last year, winning our division and the subsequent playoff games. However, we did not perform up to our expectations every game. The goal this year is to perform at a high level in every phase of the game, offense, defense, and special teams, as as well as playing up to our potential every game, no matter the. I mean, you can't ask much more out of a response. I mean, they're understanding that they finished at the top last year. They won their playoff game last year, but he recognizes that, hey, we didn't, even though we finished well and we did well, we didn't always play up to our expectations and our standards that we have. So as long if he's pushing that at practice, if he responds that way, I'm pretty sure he is. Then they're going to be a tough team to beat this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a completely reasonable
Oh yeah,
response. Thinking about how things went last year, they of course won the South, but they were far from perfect. They needed very thin margins to actually get that home playoff game. And I think that they never actually beat Ystad last year, so they haven't beaten Ystad since they came back to Division One. And I believe they might have lost one of their Gothenburg games as well. So they were far from perfect, even though they had a really good season.
yeah, yeah. Good, good.
So, uh, what
Question for
question were
you.
we on here, Antoine? What are the team's biggest strengths
Yeah,
and weaknesses?
describing strengths and weaknesses of our own team is always a challenge. In terms of strengths, we have been lucky to retain most of our players from last year. A couple of our players has also had the opportunity to play with the national team, either during their games in autumn or during their camp in the spring. Hopefully, this have given them valuable experience that they can pass on to their teammates. In regards to the question of our team's weaknesses, uh, or um, our challenge, as I like to look at it, our biggest challenge. Oh, wait, no. Let me start. In regards to the question of our team's weaknesses or challenge, as I look at it, our biggest challenge will be to have will be how well we handle adversity. How well we handle adversity. We have a lot of on field success during the last couple of years. but if things go wrong, we are able to bounce back. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, yeah. So he's in on the whole. How do we handle when things don't
Yeah,
quite
yeah.
go our way?
That's I think yeah. I mean that's always down. I mean, kind of going back to what I said about Vancouver for last year, where like depending on the game, it depends on what team shows up. I guess that's kind of feeding into this. So when things started going wrong, some of the players, some of the guys didn't necessarily know how to bounce back. So that kind of they're now you're in your head, or you're not playing to what you naturally know, your natural feel of the game. So it kind of made a lot of mistakes happen. So I think he's kind of speaking towards that. We're like, if things are going right and wrong in the game, or if things are definitely going wrong in the game, some of the players might feel like, oh my god, what are we doing? Like they're losing. So it just depends. It's a hard thing to overcome, especially if let's say you go out there, you throw interception, and then they score on the pick six, and then you kick the ball off, and you get it back, and then let's say you go 3 and out, and then they score again, and they're up 14-0. People are stressed instantly. Just
Yeah, that's a brutal situation to be in early in the game. But you always have to remember that if you're still in the first quarter, then you've got all the time in the world to make things happen, stabilize things up, start working, and get yourself back in that game.
true. Very true.
Final question for Coach Massetti. Which teams does Coach Massetti believe will make the playoffs
So
in
he
Division 1?
goes Limham, AIK, Kristianstad, and Ystad. Would be my guess for which teams will make the playoffs. Yeah.
So same grouping as Coach
Yeah, pretty
Glasnow
much.
had
Yeah.
there.
Definitely, they're recognizing that AIK is going to be a tough team this year, but they're also acknowledging that the South, the majority of the strength in the division lies in the South. So, good, good, good. All right, shall we move on to the number one team?
Our number one team in the power rankings and unanimous number one
yeah.
team, AAK. So we reached out to Coach Sebastian here. Question one: what are your main goals for the season?
All right. Main goal for this season will be to be the best team that we can be. Okay.
A bit of a vague answer, but it's valid.
Very humble answer. Man.
Second question: what are the team's biggest strengths and weaknesses?
The team's biggest strength is the balance between offense and defense. The team does not have a big weakness.
Confident.
I like these answers.
We don't have a big weakness. Huh? Fair enough. And number three, which teams do you believe will make the playoffs?
Ystad, and Limham.
What? He left one team out. But yeah, Coach Vacca here, Sebastian Vacca, was very short answer, straight to the point. But I don't think he's necessarily wrong in what he says.
Like we've been kind of alluding to, they did have a lot of players join from Arlanda, which was a very good team last year, and then AIK being a very good team this year as well. So those two teams kind of combining forces. I mean, you automatically, as a head coach, you recognize and you understand that, man, with the two of the four best teams have a really good football. It's really tough for a lot of teams.
But yeah, like you can look at it this way: in Stockholm, there are a lot of teams, but in the Super Series, you have the Mean Machines and you have Toyota in the South. That's it. The rest of Stockholm, the rest of the good players in the Stockholm area, or the greater Stockholm area, are gathered at AIK. Because they're the only team in Division 1. So everyone else who's pretty good at football is going to try to end up playing there.
Yeah, for sure. So it's going to be... Here's what I don't want to happen. Is that like we hyped him up so good that they kind of have a disappointing season, and they kind of injuries kind of play a part, and then they kind of fall off. But I definitely don't see that happening for AIK. But you never know.
Yeah, I mean, if they have like two or three important injuries, I don't think that should hinder them too much because, from what I understand, they have a very deep roster. They have a lot of guys on their squad, so it shouldn't be. They should be not injury proof, but like they should be able to take a few hits to starting players without losing too much on that team. And that I think actually is the biggest strength of their team. It's not having the one or two or three superstar players. It's having that depth because throughout the course of a season, being able to rotate guys and being able to have guys step up, and there's almost no difference in the level of play. That is huge for you.
Definitely. I mean, yeah, man. Division One is definitely going to be interesting watch this year. I think it's not a close game. I think the far from every team. Every team seems to have a pretty good team. So, yeah, man.
Do you want to give any of your predictions, Antoine, before we maybe get into the week 1 games?
Yeah, I mean, from here, our power from three of us, from myself, you and the side, our power ranking lists were were very similar. This side for Amsterdam, I think you have two rounds being fourth or third.
So you and Osaid had identical lists, so that happened to be the official Gridirons of Europe list. I had Limham and Ystad flipped, and I had Kristianstad and Karlskoga flipped.
Yeah. So that's what it was. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, when you look at where teams finished last year, you look at what some of the teams have added this year, I mean, the list kind of made itself. So I mean, I think the top three on the list are going to be battling for that one spot all year, and then the bottom three teams are going to be battling for that coveted fourth spot in that playoff game this year. So.
Okay, so that's Antoine's perspective on things. Yeah. So the reason why I had Ystad ahead of Limham was the pure fact that Limham could not beat Ystad last year. They just couldn't. And Ystad, they've added 2 quality import guys, including a quarterback, and I think Ystad have only gotten better. So I'm still not sure if Limham can beat them. Maybe they'll step up. They should be able to. They were close last year, and I guess they got the tie when they only needed a tie. So that's fair enough. But
well,
I've got to see Limham actually beat Ystad head to head before I put them ahead of Ystad.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that's definitely going to be number 1 on their list of things to do this year is to beat Ystad, and that's kind of like anytime any team is are going up against like the AIK or Limham or Ystad, one of the top 3 teams, it's always can be viewed as a measuring stick game, to see where you are, to see what you can potentially accomplish during the playing season. So, you should take every game seriously, but definitely a lot more focus and attention will be on those 3 teams, trying to beat them, trying to knock those. If the bottom 3 teams can knock the teams out of contention and to beat on them instead of it being reversed, like the top teams beating on the lower ranking teams, then you got an interesting.
So yeah, from my perspective, I believe in my team. I think we're going to be up and fighting with those top 3 teams, not with the bottom teams that we have. I truly believe that, and I mean the reason I didn't have us higher than 4 on my list was because we haven't earned a higher spot. Like there's no justification for me to put us ahead of AIK, Ystad, or Limham right now, because Limham destroyed us last year, and we lost one and tied one against Ystad last year. So like, we're not quite there yet, but we plan on showing it on opening night, because we're gonna roll out, go out there on the field, first game against Ystad, and give it all we've got in front of our home crowd on Friday night.
I love the confidence. He pretty much said that Swansea is gonna be without. That's what he means.
I am not doing a Joe Namath and guaranteeing victory. I'm not doing that. I have a lot of respect for Ystad. I think they have a good team, but we also have a good team. We also have an import quarterback. I think the average player on our roster is better than the average player on Ystad's roster. And if we can contain their best players, I think we've got a good shot.
And then for like week one, I mean, the week one games in Division One are some of the best games that you could possibly, like, the best matchups you can possibly have. You have the top teams going after each other, and then man, it's just we have Swansea versus Ystad.
Yeah, it's sort of a local thing there in Kristianstad.
Yeah,
That'll be fun.
AIK versus Limham, so 1 versus 2.
And they've played qualification games 2 years in a row against each other. And Limham winning both at home, and now Limham has to travel to Solna, so that's gonna be so interesting.
And then you have Gothenburg versus Karlskoga, so you know. We got some good games.
Yeah, a lot of good measuring stick games too, because we'll really start getting a feel for where these teams are already in week one, and that's going to be a lot of fun.
So what you think? You want to make some predictions?
Can we call it an upset? Kristianstad beats Ystad at home.
I mean, this honestly was going to be a tough game for me to decide anyway, because I'm just like, based off of what happened last year. So it's just like, you just never know. So yeah, we can go ahead and call it an upset for Kristianstad for beating Ystad.
I'll say a one-score win for Kristianstad.
I'm gonna make it interesting. I say you guys win by 3.
Win by 3.
I say you guys do it old school and go all the way down on the last drive of the game, and then you guys kick a victory field goal, and hey man, you guys got yourself win by 3, or you guys might tie. That's not out of the realm of possibility, since you guys did tie them last year. So
I mean, if we're looking at our recent history, a tie might be the most likely outcome.
You guys did tie, so yeah.
God, I hope that doesn't happen. I do not want another tie. I'd rather lose than tie. I don't want to tie again. It's terrible.
So
it's the worst.
So here's how it's gonna go. Either you guys make the game-winning field goal, or you guys miss it and then you guys tie. Those are my 2 predictions. Those are my 2 predictions for how that game's gonna go. And it's a Friday night game, right? Yeah,
correct.
Friday night under the lights, man. Let's go. That's huge.
Be there or be square. April 14th, Friday night, 1900 at Kristianstad Football Arena. I think so. I'm not sure exactly who or how or where, but I think we will be.
I want to watch some game, some of that game for our game on Saturday, so it'll be good. But all right, let's go ahead. AIK versus Limham. What's that? Tough.
Ooh. I think Limham are going to go up there and get themselves a bit of a wake-up call, because I think AIK manages to beat them by 2 scores.
Listen, I haven't seen too many of Limham games or seen too much film on them. I do know they're a decent team, but AIK, going there and playing there is just one of those places where it's tough to get a win. And then Limham has been beating AIK for the last 2 years, so I just don't see them out top Limham this year, unfortunately.
And yeah, I really don't want that to happen because then Limham's gonna put all their revenge onto us 2 weeks later. So I'd much rather they go up and beat AAK because then it's a satisfied Limham team that comes to Kristianstad. But if they're pissed off, I'm not going to want any part of that. But I think AAK gets the
I
win.
mean, that game is Sunday at noon in AIK. So yeah, be sure to. We don't know how teams are streaming the games this year or where you can watch the games, but if you're listening to this podcast, which you probably are, and you want to catch these games, make sure you're following the teams on IG or Facebook so that you can see how they're streaming games and watch the games.
For sure, for sure. And if you're able to get yourself to Bergshamra in Solna at 12 p.m. on Sunday, April 16th, that's going to be a fun game. Get there if you can.
And then the last game of week one, you have Gothenburg versus Karlskoga. Gothenburg is at home and they're playing on Sunday at 1300. So what you got for this game?
Ooh, I don't know, Antoine. That for me, that's the most difficult one to predict because here's the thing. I think Gothenburg, from everything I can understand, they're struggling quite a bit right now. But it mostly has to do with numbers. The players that they have are pretty good. I mean, they've got some solid dudes. But I don't know if they have the numbers to compete in the series all the way through. But the strange things that can happen in week one. I must say it. I think Gothenburg wins a close game here. I think they manage to do it in week one in a strange game, in an upset on their home turf with Karlskoga visiting. I think it's going to be a really weird game, but I think Gothenburg manages to edge it out in week one. And maybe this is the only game they win the entire season, but if they're going to win one game, it's going to be this one. I think it's entirely possible.
So you're saying that one, Gothenburg isn't going to win that many games this year, period, and then you think that they're going to come out and beat Karlskoga. I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to disagree. Even though, like you said, Gothenburg they don't have the depth that they need to compete. So maybe if they can jump out to an early lead and get out and get maybe like a 2-score lead and kind of maintain and hold that as they get tired later on in the game, that could be a possibility. But if I know Karlskoga, I know that when they hear this and they hear our predictions and they see the power ranking list, kind of like last year, they're gonna take it as disrespect now, and then you're gonna have the players like, okay, no, we need to prove ourselves. So any opportunity for Karlskoga to prove themselves as a good team, they kind of take it and they kind of run with it, and that's kind of what we did last year. So going into the opening game last year, there was nerves flying all around the room. I knew we were gonna win because I was like, we have to prove everybody wrong. They don't know what kind of team, but we have to prove everybody wrong. So we went out and we smashed Uppsala, and then we thought, okay, yeah, now they know. But so we'll see. We'll see what team steps out on the. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know how they're going to do. I know they lost a core guys, but we'll see. I mean, this is going to be one of the games I'm just going to have to watch and kind of watch it and see the big guy. I do see Karlskoga pulling off I think it's going to be a low scoring game, maybe like 10-6 or something.
Yeah, I mean, I actually have no idea how this game is going to go. This can go any which way. I have no idea, if I'm being perfectly honest. I could be completely wrong. Karlskoga could come in, roll in, win 40-0. I have no idea. That could happen.
I think for me the disconnect is like I haven't been around the team, obviously, so I don't know, and then I haven't really been with many of the guys on the team. You just don't know. So who knows?
Yeah, And I think Gothenburg might be the team I know the least about going into this season, which is so strange because we've played them so many times the last few years, but I just don't know what's happening in Gothenburg right now. And of course, I don't know much about Karlskoga either, but I've seen some pictures on social media from practices, and I've seen some announcements about players, and so I know a little bit, but not much.
I'm not gonna. The pictures from a Karlskoga practice can be misleading. Like you look at it, and you're like, man, they only have like 11 dudes. You know what I mean? So you just from a practice picture, you can have 11 dudes, and on game day you'll roll up to a stadium with like 50 dudes on the team. And you're like,
Oh, that's my teammate over there. I didn't know him.
So yeah, we'll see what they roll into it, but hopefully we're right. I mean, hopefully we're right in our predictions, and we're right with our power ranking list. I think our power ranking list for Division One is solid. I think it's a good list.
I mean, it's a fine list, but it'll probably be blown up by week one anyway, because we're gonna have to change things up depending on results here. It's gonna be a fun process.
We'll definitely see as the season progresses how our preseason power ranking ultimately holds up. But yeah, week one is definitely gonna be one for week one. So make sure, like I said before, make sure you guys are watching these games, and you guys are following these teams and keeping up with us this year.
And I mean, if my predictions are correct, then the entire list is going to be totally blown up. If both us and Gothenburg manage to get wins, it's going to be our entire preseason list is toast after week one. Not quite, but yeah, something like that. But hey, we want to thank everyone for listening or watching our Division 1 preview extravaganza.
And as always, make sure you guys are following us on social media. We just surpassed a huge milestone with got over the 500 follower mark on IG.
Let's push it to 1,000.
Next goal. So make sure you guys are following us on IG. Make sure you guys are listening on Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast, and make sure you guys are watching us on YouTube and subscribe. Just click that red button. It means nothing to you. You don't get no fancy prize or anything, but it means everything to us. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure you're watching the episodes.
And have fun watching Division 1 this year. Bye-bye.